for some fight night.
If you ain't paying attention, you're gonna sleep on me and I'm gonna wake you up.
All right, my man. So I think it is safe to say here, AJ, that you have a very fun sleeper set up for UFC 278 that not too many people know about. I got a pretty good sleeper too, if I do say so myself. But I am interested to hear your sleeper. So kick it off, brother. Who you got this week?
Man, I'm rocking AJ Fletcher versus Angelusa, brother. And the reason I picked this one, because you're right, Derek, not a lot of people know about these two fighters right here. AJ Fletcher, crazy. They call him the Ghost, man. 9-1 record. It's barely new to the welterweight scene, but they're going to be absolute bomb droppers going forward, man. A lot of people are picking Fletcher. He has a little less notoriety in exactly who he's rocking with. As I find my page that I was working on before. Here we go. Dude, AJ Fletcher, man, this dude's coming in off of a little bit of losing streak. Remember him from the Matt Semmelberger's fight. But if you're looking for somebody who's all about the action, whether you want stand-up, ground game, whatever it is, flying knees, spinning elbows, doesn't matter, submissions on deck, this guy is coming in, going to be hunting for your head. Had a very nice flying knee knockout on the Contender Series, but then comes into the UFC when the big show, when the big lights are on, suffers unanimous loss against Semmelsberger, who obviously semi the Jedi, man. It's going to be a hard fight either way. But showed that he is one of the dogs, man. Next up, Angelusa. This one could be a little bit more familiar in a lot of people's minds, but as you can see from what Derek was just showing on the screen, a lot of people are betting against him, man. 27%, but near the same knockout percentage as Fletcher, man. So if they're looking for knockouts, it's going to be a toss-up. Either way, if you're looking for a decision, the point fighter, AJ Fletcher, is going to be the one to get it done. But as far as Angelusa, man, you want to talk about power. You want to talk about somebody coming in with a fierce reckoning to him, man. This is Angelusa. He's the guy who, if Angelusa is on that night, you don't want to be the one standing in his way. This dude's a powerhouse, gonna be coming in, wrecking people on. He had a great fight against Manur Lizez. Did lose the fight, but either way had a performance that was noteworthy enough to be locked into people's mind and be put on a pay-per-view undercard, especially for your second fight in the UFC. Speaks volumes to what the UFC brass thinks about this guy. I think this is going to be a fun one, man, especially since both of these fighters aren't really well known. I think we're going to see some bombs being dropped. It's going to be a great time. Derek, what do you think?
You know what, brother? I think you might be onto something. And I think that we do have a pretty good track record in terms of our sleepers, especially as of late, because I'm actually working to pull it up right now. If you look at our last sleeper, right, last week, you had Ode Osbourne versus Tyson Nam, which resulted in a first-round right hook knockout, man, a knockout from hell where he just sat down and clipped him. Get him out of here. And if you look at mine, well, I had a very hard-fought Yusuf Zalal versus Damon Blackshear. Ended up in a majority draw, right? So it was sleeper because it was a good fight, right? So I want you to really resonate on what AJ just said in terms of his sleeper and watch that fight. AJ Fletcher versus Angelusa. Both really good fighters. Now, AJ, I want to talk about my sleeper really fast. And I have a fight that's in a smaller weight class, but oftentimes these are the funner weight classes. And what do we always say here on this program, the Bloody Water Podcast? We say, if you are opening up the card, right, if you're the first fight of the night, you've been put there for a reason. You did not get into the spot you were at for no reason. Somebody selected you, and it was the UFC brass. And what I'm talking about is Victor Altamirano versus Daniel Da Silva. Now, if you've heard that name, Altamirano, and you're like, that sounds familiar, huh? Where's that coming from? Well, he actually was a very highly touted prospect. And if you look at his credentials right here, you're going to see some LFA work going on over here. I believe he was a regional champion in the LFA, got to the Contender Series, won a split decision victory in the Contender Series, and was awarded a UFC contract. Now, how often does that happen? Not very often. So when it does happen, you do need to recognize and say, okay, maybe this kid is a legit stud. But what happens? You fight versus Carlos Hernandez, and you have a split decision that you lose in your UFC debut. So you won, you got a contract via split decision. You lost your debut via split decision. You can't leave it to the judges at this point. Second fight in the UFC, you're coming for heat. But you know this dude that he's fighting? We're talking about a Daniel Da Silva, and this is an incredibly talented prospect here in the UFC, man. Yes, he lost his last fight against Francisco Figueiredo due to a knee bar. So it's not what you want to see, but this is a fun dude. He's loose, great jiu-jitsu, which is why it was surprising that he lost to a knee bar. You look at the fight before, he got knocked out by Jeff Molina. But if you look at these names here, AJ, I just want a little perspective right here. Jeff Molina, El Jefe, right? Francisco Figueiredo. In terms of those being your UFC bouts, those are not easy bouts to come on when you first enter the big show. You look at before that, knockout win, armbar win, and then the triangle choke. I also got to show some love to Daniel De Silva because the last time that he walked out in his UFC performance, he was coached. His jiu-jitsu coach was my black belt at my jiu-jitsu gym, Carlson Gracie Henderson. He is a coach there at American Top Team Nevada. Hanan Silva, shout out my man, you know what I'm saying? He's in the corner, so it's all love over here in the Vegas corner over here, in the Henderson, Nevada corner. So I will just say this is going to be a fun fight because you have a submission specialist, you have a very fun striker, a very acrobatic fighter in Daniel De Silva, and then you got a Victor Altamirano, who is, let's just say, man, a fun, flashy overall fighter. But you see a serious discrepancy right here, and these people I think are going to be very disappointed because they have 80% by decision for Victor Altamirano. Look at this, man. 47 for decision for De Silva, 23 and 21% for KO and submission right here. Altamirano is the heavy favorite when it comes down to it, but this is why we love the sport of MMA because guess what, man? All we love to do is say, y'all must have forgot, man. You do not know who the hell you're dealing with. And just because Altamirano is a flashy name, does not mean he's a shoo-in. This is going to be violent. This is going to be bloody, and somebody is probably going to get finished in this fight, even if it's at 125 pounds. AJ, do you have anything else on this sleeper, or have I delivered enough of a good spiel for it? What do you think?
You've said it enough, Derek, but the one thing I want to hammer home is when the lightweights are out there swinging, they still got a lot of power, and you're right, someone is getting finished in this fight. You better tune in, folks. First fight of the night, don't sleep on it, because like the intro says, you will be getting woken up.
That's right, and listen, not necessarily lightweights. They are light of weight, 125 pounds, baby. Let's go. Flyweights. Let's rock. All right.